UFOs attacking an army, warplanes versus unidentified objects, and aliens in the Cold War. These are 5 more terrifying battles between soldiers and aliens. Number 5. Close encounter in Korea. Our 5th position dates from the spring of 1951, at the height of the war in North Korea. Francis Wall, who had a squadron under him, was fighting the enemy on a mountain near Chawon. The idea was to take a base whose strategic position would be of great help to the U.S. military. But it was during the night, when they were using heavy artillery to repel the enemy garrison, that something very strange happened. On one side, crossing the mountain, the soldiers spotted what looked like a flashlight. Then they could see that it was a floating object. The light, bright orange, was moving across the battlefield. It even landed several times in places where heavy artillery shells were exploding and came out unharmed. The show continued for at least 30 minutes, but suddenly the mystery object began to fly threateningly over Francis Wall's battalion, and now it was emitting a greenish-blue light while beating. The soldiers, frightened, asked for permission to shoot it, a request that was granted almost immediately. According to Wall, the object must have been metal since he could hear the bullets hitting him. It was unlikely that hand weapons would have damaged it, since the heavy artillery had not. After a while, however, it began to beat more and more and moved erratically all over the place, as if about to crash. Eventually, the entire squadron was attacked by some sort of ray of light that made them feel a burning sensation through their bodies. Will ordered a retreat, and they never saw the object again. Days later, all the members of the squadron, when analyzed by doctors, had a very high rate of white blood cells in their blood. Number 4. Battle on Kapustin Yar. Kapustin Yar is a military base in southern Russia, which we could call the equivalent of Area 51 along with Cape Canaveral. And as with Area 51, the Russian government tries to keep its purpose absolutely secret. Be that as it may, Russian ufologists claim that the first confrontation between humans and an extraterrestrial UFO happened right at Kapustin Yar in 1948. The story goes that a Soviet pilot was preparing to land his fighter on the base runway, but from the control tower, he was alerted to a rapidly approaching object. The same pilot was able to see it and described it on the radio as a silver cigarette-shaped object. At first, it was thought to be an American spy ship, so he alerted Stalin himself, who gave the order to shoot down the object if possible. Then, the Russian pilot attacked the object, but the latter defended himself. There was an arduous battle over Kapustin Yar until both aircraft were so damaged that they crashed, almost at the same time. It is not known what happened to the Soviet pilot, but it is believed that the remains of the UFO and its crew are kept in some hidden laboratory in Kapustin Yar. Number 3. Battle of Los Angeles. Let's be honest. Many of the stories and UFO theories we hear sound so far-fetched that they are hard to believe, and this is no exception. What makes it different is that there are reliable records that corroborate this story. The event is known as the Battle of Los Angeles. During World War II, specifically on February 24, 1942, an unidentified flying object landed on the Santa Monica coast in Los Angeles, USA. Recently, the attack on Pearl Harbor had occurred, so the Army was particularly nervous. The point is that, at the time the object was spotted, everyone thought it was another Japanese attack. As soon as they got a shot at it, all the artillery stationed in the city of Los Angeles fired tons and tons of lead at the object, but without success because the object seemed to be immune to any weapon used. Quickly, the Navy and the Army joined in trying to shoot down the ship, but they got nothing but a huge rumble that lasted 58 whole minutes. After that, Navy Secretary Frank Knox stopped the operations and announced that it was a psychological attack on the population using a weather balloon. Of course, doubts began to arise. In total, over 1,400 anti-aircraft shells had been fired, not counting infantry bullets. A weather balloon could barely withstand a grass shard. Not even a Japanese plane would have withstood more than a couple of shots. Number 2. F-16 versus Unidentified Object. This story comes to us from the mouth of a Russian colonel during the First Gulf War. The colonel was in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, when he was called to investigate the area where a UFO was shot down. Through radar, you could see the entire battle. A group of American F-16s were passing over the desert. Then, on the radar, a point appeared that no one could identify. One of the F-16s moved away from the formation and started chasing the UFO through a lot of distance. Finally, the UFO fired a shell at the F-16, but missed the shot. In turn, the F-16 fired 2 missiles that hit the object, knocking it down. According to the Russian colonel, the United States tried to cover up the event, saying that nothing had happened. But when he arrived at the impact site, there were pieces of what looked like a circular ship. Among the pieces, there were strange characters that no one had ever seen before. Soon after, the Americans arrived, wanting to hide everything. They basically put everything in boxes and made the Russian colonel retreat from there. Number 1. West Germany, Neubiberg. The year was 1951, and the 52nd U.S. Air Force Fighter-Bomber Squadron was based there, from where they controlled all nearby flights from Czechoslovakia, Russia, or Korea. However, it was normal for radars to detect planes flying close to the borders, but not beyond them. Even so, every time this happened, the 525th Squadron was sent to investigate. It happened that one day, radars detected a large number of aircraft flying east to west from East Germany. The 525th was sure it was a horde of Russian fighter planes. But when the fighter bombers reached maximum altitude, they discovered it wasn't the Russians. Instead, there were many metal flying saucers, and they flew much higher than the American ships could. The planes passed helplessly under the saucers, which had a high degree of maneuverability. Sometimes they flew very fast and zigzagged, and sometimes they just stopped in midair. Sightings like that continued for several of the following days, always flying from east to west. Everyone was sure that they were not Russian or Korean aircraft, and the mystery was still more in the air than ever. No American plane could do anything about any UFO. The mystery reached the Pentagon but was never fully investigated. What do you think? Scary truth? The military has not only confronted aliens, but also supernatural demonic entities. Know more of these stories in this video.